Hello and welcome back to another live stream on this channel, Jan's Views. So today, as usual, we're going to be talking about the Slater case. Before we start about that, I want to say hi to everybody. A big hi and thank you to all of my mods, including Courtster. Hi to Lisa, Leanne, and Pinky Pop. Also, who else have we got in the house? We've got Red Sauce, we've got Amanda, we've got, who else have we got? We've got Claire, and I'm just seeing if Dunks is in the house. He should be very soon. DJ Ravers, lovely to see you all. So, how are you all? Guys, I'm still not 100%. I'm still trying to drink copious amounts of water when I think about it. Not very good at that, I have to say. But I'm here. I may not be as buoyant as I usually am because, yeah, I'm not sleeping very well. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that. How are you all? Are you keeping warm? That's the most important thing. Keep warm, keep happy, keep safe. I'm going to put the link in the channel because I'm sure Dunks is going to be coming up very, very soon. So, there's so much still to talk about, isn't there? I'm glad that Mama D has started talking about it again. I don't know whether she's going to carry on, but it's like I've said on several occasions, the main thing is to keep talking about it and also to start at the very beginning. It's what happens in many cases, many criminal cases where, you know, a case has gone cold. They call them cold cases. And a case goes cold, and then they bring in some more detectives to check out the you know, the case, and you'll be very surprised at how many times that is successful. So I think, you know, especially like with this little live stream we've got going on, I think it's important that we do look at the very beginning. So did any of you watch Duncan's latest video? I found that very good. His videos are always very good. And like I say, he starts at the beginning. That's what we've got to do, guys. So his latest video is he's talking about the pinging, about the Jay's pinging phone. And it just seems common sense to me that everybody is aware that just because the phone pings in such and such a place, that somebody's that it doesn't necessarily mean that it was that person that had the phone. See, Dunk says it much better than I do. Yeah, Dunks. Oh, what have you said there, honey? Good evening. Just slightly late. Okay, no worries. Click on the link. I have put the link in there for you, Duncan. Yeah, so let's see what you lovely people are saying. Oh, Pam says she watches all of Duncan's videos. So do I. I do. I also watch all of Wax's, especially when he's talking about the Slater case. Although some of the new stories he's covering are also very, very interesting, guys. So check those out as well. So let's see what Pinky Pup says. Pinky Pup says, Guardia Civil said no evidence Jay was in the mountains when they apparently stopped the search. Yes! So if they're saying that, and that's official, why was it accepted, or why is that accepted as some kind of evidence that Jay was actually there? I think Duncan did say, let me pop the thing back in for Duncan because he's taken his time getting up here today. Um, it's all so incredulous that the red flags are just so blatantly obvious. And in one hand you've got the Guardia of Seville saying, "Oh no, they didn't find anything about him there." Any evidence, which is what we, as the foul play group, if you want to call us that, have been saying. There is no evidence. There is no evidence at all. So, but I do have evidence of a little man in my green room. So let's welcome him. Here's Duncan. Hey, Dunks, how you doing, honey?
I'm okay. I'm just adjusting things. I don't have the best connection, Jan, so we will do our best here. I'm getting, circles going around every now and then. But yeah, on the whole, everything's okay. How are you, Jan?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've just got a bit of a funny tummy at the moment. So that's a bit of a pain. And I woke up with dry eye the other morning, which was like, what the hell's that? Yeah, so luckily, yeah, yeah, I'm not going to go into family details, but yeah, one of my daughter's partner is a nurse. So, yeah, it's like I get on the phone to her. Oh, we've lost Dunks. Come back, Dunks. I get on the phone to her and she says, right, do this, do that, do the other. So, yeah, so I've done that. So, I'm sure Dunks will return very, very soon. So, let's see what else you're saying. So, Pam says the ping doesn't mean you're with your phone. Exactly, Pam. I left my phone in my brother's car before I could see where he went with my phone in his car. I was 30 minutes drive away from my brother and my phone. Exactly. It just seems, it's like, where's the common sense? Where is the common sense in the accident theory? There's just none. So he's back again. Here we go. Let's try this again.
Yeah, let's try it again. We have two different lines that come into this place. One works most of the time. The other one is better, but I think Mrs. Smith is on Netflix or something. You know what I know? Someone is using my juice. I can't get the full stream going. We will do our best, Jan. We will do our best. But you're going to have to repeat yourself. I heard the bit about you're not actually feeling that great, and then what did you say after that?
Oh, I was just waffling, really. I was just saying that one of my daughter's partners, is a nurse. And so all I have to do basically is phone her up and say, "Oh, look, Mummy's got a sore eye." And I'll get all the treatment I need or the
Right,
advice.
right.
So I was saying earlier, Dunks, about your last video about the pinging, and I was sort of looking at the comments in chat, and I was actually just saying I cannot understand how common sense does not seem to mean anything in the accident group.
Not only common sense, but they seem to refuse to even look at like basic reality. I mean, even if you mention the idea that how far into the wilderness does a phone keep receiving a signal, they won't even think of that, and they could come back and say, well, for some phones it probably extends quite a way, for others it might cut off. And I've had this experience. I've been in a place where I'm like, well, I don't have any signal, and the person next to me says, well, I do. It's a weird thing. And in my video I did even point out that we did have Rach and Warren somewhere down there. I don't know where that little hut is, but it's obviously away from the road, and I think they did have signal and everything. So I even threw it out there. Obviously there is evidence that a phone can work as you go down there, but I'm just curious if you went where Chris went, that far down, where does it actually cut off? And my suspicion with all this is that it probably cuts off pretty early. And my suspicion with this is the accident group, and Debbie is really in the accident group now. They know that. So I was just thinking maybe when they had this, get together in Tenerife in between Inquest Part 1 and Inquest Part 2, I don't know. I tend to think Luggy is the one that comes up with these ideas. I was just speculating. Maybe he thought we need something else because we didn't really know how Adderley was going to go in part two. Um, if the fear was Adderley might start asking questions like, well, where is the evidence that Jay's phone was working, you know, as he was walking along here? I just got a feeling Luggy was the kind of person that said, we've got to have some kind of backup evidence here. And the reason I think it was Luggy was because as soon as it was mentioned, listen, I'm not going to make it, is a fake, Luggy jumped on it and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I can explain all this. If you write a draft and you press send and there's no signal, then months later when it connects, it's like, oh, so Luggy already worked this out." And then he went even further. He went on to say, there's something called a Faraday cage. And when the Guardia Civil found the phone, they put it in there. So it isolates it from any signal. And then when they examine it in the Faraday cage, it's not, the signal that's coming in isn't going to interrupt anything. It's almost like Luggy had prepared his defense before we even questioned it. Do you know what I mean, Jan? It was like he leapt on an explanation. I was like, well, it sounds like you've worked this all out before the questioning came. It was so bizarre.
Thanks. Can you see the comments if I put them on the screen?
Yes, I can.
So Alison Reed has said that video Dunk shared with Toby, the Brit abroad. I'm wondering if it was his farm animals that could be heard on DTR's video. Do you know that thought crossed my mind as well, Alison? Do you want to add a little bit to that, Dunks, before we go on to the questions?
Yeah. When I first heard about this guy, I didn't know he was called Toby, but I'd heard of this Buena Vista rural, whatever it's called, farm or eco farm. And I believe, this is where I'm a bit confused. I believe on their Facebook page, someone had written quite praiseworthy things about Chris Pennington, something like, "We know you did a grand job," or you know what I mean? It sounded like they were full on accident group. So when I heard Wendell talking to Toby, and Toby completely unprompted came out with, I feel like those two he was staying with in the Airbnb did him in. I was curious. I was like, well, I don't seem to remember that. But the point of this is, a while ago, I'd looked up where that farm is, and it's actually not that close to the ravine that Jay went down. It's a bit further along and kind of back north up the road. I mean, those dogs, those dogs were pretty loud, I've got to say, but I don't think they were the dogs going crazy. But having said that, with dogs, if they went crazy, the next dog within earshot goes crazy, and the next dog goes crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was, oh my God, it was frightening to watch that video. And I'm so glad you shared it because it, those dogs, I don't know how the guy can continue to live there. I know that he's got this dream and everything. He wants to have something, some sort of business going on there. But sometimes you've just got to say, is it worth being ripped apart by, raging dogs? I don't know. And he seems such a genuinely nice guy as well. I just felt so sorry for him. Um, so, okay, Dunks, did I ask you if you're well? You and the missus okay, are you? Good. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the questions. Let's dip into question corner. So, question number one. Who knew who before Jay went missing? I'm going to start and then I'm going to pass it on to Duncan. If you've got any thoughts on it, guys, put it down in the chat for me and I'll read your responses. So I Actually, not 100% sure, even who Jay knew in advance. There doesn't seem to be, and I did mention it once in a video, there doesn't seem to be any evidence of Jay having Brad as a friend. Were they in the same football team? Were there any pictures? I mean, I don't go hunting Facebook pages, unlike some people. But we'll move on from that. I have not seen any evidence that Brandon, or sorry, I keep saying Brandon, that Brad was actually Jay's best friend. I haven't seen that. And I get the feeling that the only person that he would have known would have been Lucy, because they did go to that cream fields. I really don't know where Brad fits into all this. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Duncan.
Yeah. Let's start with the three so-called friends and let's start with Brad. I was just amazed when Brad was speaking to Isla, whatever her name is, that he really couldn't describe his own best friend very well. And that could be teenage nerves on camera, but he came across as not knowing Jay very well. I mean, I'm sure they knew each other, but it didn't seem like best friends to me. I think, and this is just, judging by what we've learned over time, I think Jay and Lucy did know each other quite well. I believe I read they went to school together. But let me go totally conspiratorial here. If Lucy is one of the gang in Tenerife or wherever the next festival is that recruits mules, whether they be, the narco mules or the money mules, if I think she's a recruiter. I think that because she's on numerous accommodation sites for Tenerife and that. Well, she's got a place to stay there. I think she is the one setting this all up. That's just my feeling. And I think Jay knows her and she got him to go out there. Um, Brad, I think he's a friend of Jay's, but I don't think he's that close a friend. The one I can't figure out is Brandon. Because Brandon's in Burnley and Jay is in Oswald Twistle. They're not next to each other. I don't think they went to the same school. Brandon is doing his thing in Tenerife a lot. That's the bit I couldn't figure out. And that's why, again, when we see Brandon in that poolside photo, with his arm around Jay, that looked fake to me. That was like, here's my new friend. Look, we're really friends. It just looked fake. So I don't think Brandon knew Jay very well, and I think that might have been a source of them falling out because they weren't friends and because something went wrong between them. I just think the business side of it went wrong for Brandon, and I just feel he turned on Jay. Can I just go on a little bit, Jan, with the adults here? That when I said in my video or community post, whatever it was, I might disagree with you. I might disagree with a lot. I don't think that the adults in this actually did know each other beforehand because there was a lot of speculation. Oh, Chris had, something going on with Rach or Luggy knew Rach. I'm not sure about that. The only thing that might make sense to me, remember, Chris as a reservist, I think was in Iraq. And I think Brad's dad, Mark, was also in the army, Iraq or Afghanistan. It could be those two met and knew. The reason I think that is because remember, Chris was very quick and Luggy very quick to say Brad is a hero. And obviously Brad isn't a hero, but it's the kind of thing you do to boost the morale of a friend's kid or something. Oh, he's such a good kid, he's a hero, he did the right thing. It just seemed out of place. And when I heard that hero, hero, hero thing, I thought, well, yeah, then you're uncle or you're a best friend of the family or something. It didn't sound right to me. Um, but I'm now prepared for all the commenters to say that I've missed something here. That obviously, um, all these adults know each other somehow. But I'll throw it back to you, Jan. Did you get the feeling early on that the adults had met somewhere before, worked together somehow?
Yes, definitely. And I think
Oh, wow.
maybe because, especially Rachel was very prominent at the beginning, wasn't she? In, on Facebook. As I say, I don't really use Facebook, but I know some people that do. And it seemed to me that she was sort of, driving the bus for some time at the beginning. Well, she now seems to have exited the bus and we don't see hide nor hair of her. I mean, I don't go looking for people on YouTube. Sorry, for people on Facebook. So I don't know what her Facebook activities are at the moment, but I do believe that because she was so prominent at the beginning, and remember she was doing these TikTok videos, that, and also she was there, like, did she just do one interview with Debbie Duncan? I'm not sure. But even seeing her with Debbie Duncan, it was like, well, why is it Rachel that's there? Why is it not her, Warren, or her new husband, or her son, her other son? So, yeah, I think at the very beginning, I did have queries about the elders' relationships. We seem to have moved on from that for some reason, and I don't really know why. Is it because Rachel's disappeared? Is it because, there's old, Debbie Duncan doing Dallas or wherever she's doing next in front of the camera? Bless her. But yeah, and the thought has crossed my mind a few times, Duncan. What's happened to Rachel? Have you got anything to say on that?
No, the only thing I've got to say on well, not on Rach, but I just want to go back to evidence, if you like, that some people in this story knew each other beforehand. My most startling moment of, oh my God, that's, the same family or the same face. I don't know if you saw that photo when DTR and Brad and Rach were photographed together, because DTR facially, to me, looked like Brad, like a slightly older version. I was like, oh my God, you two could be brothers. Now, I don't think they are. That's, total conspiracy, but they looked a little bit closer than just I was one of the searchers that went looking for your friend. It was a little bit odd. I think probably with Rach, I think she's probably glad that the spotlight is off her. Um, and I don't know, I'm just guessing. I think Rach feels that her job is done. Her job being to make sure Brad is isolated from all this. Um, and she did her job. I do have a feeling that Brad is probably in a bad way. I'm just speculating, but we know that he was on the cat. Rocky was on a live saying he had heard from Brad, I think, that he was having some, mental health issues. So, yeah, I would imagine if that is true, that Rach is just glad to be out of the spotlight. She's done her job and she should be doing what she can to help Brad. Whether she is, who knows? But yeah, Rach, early doors, a lot of attention paid to her, and now I guess it's because the inquest and the documentaries happen. There's not a lot for her to say, but Debbie's taken over that controversial role, hasn't it? Since Debbie has stepped up to say we need laws to shut people up, Rach doesn't have to say anything. Everyone's now looking at Debbie going, "What?"
It's just going to be another voice contradicting everything that Debbie said, because that's what seems to happen every time somebody else talks about it, i.e., Rocky or Aya back in the day. The contradictions were just so obvious that it was like, well, why are you bothering to speak? Just stay over there, speak when you need to speak, which is, we all know they don't do. Um, Yeah, so I've got somebody um, in the chat saying that perhaps Rachel is back as a troll. That wouldn't surprise me. There's always something, and I'm sure you've noticed as well, Duncan, as you're an educator. There's always a certain pattern of speech. Their speech pattern is very similar, and it seems to come from up north. The way they don't speak like they're southerners, so they all speak like they're northerners, and they don't use punctuation, they don't use and a lot of what they say doesn't make sense. I mean, don't they realise you can just put anything you like in Chat GPT and up it'll come? But it's like, it's just ridiculous. And to me, as I was an educator, I find it just so obvious that these people are all from the same area or of the same lifestyle, put it that way. So let's move on to question number two. Look at me all organised this week. Question number two. Was DTR really scared off the island, or did he just leave when his TikTok numbers peaked? My answer to that is, do you know what, Dunks? I never really paid much attention to DTR, and I think it was because he was over on TikTok. Um, so I never really paid much attention, but obviously I know who he is. But I'm going to leave this question for you to answer because I don't really know enough about him to answer it properly.
I don't know enough about him, and I think that's part of the problem here. He's another one of these that didn't seem to have a real job or anything before he went out there. And it is a bit bewildering how quite a lot of these people were suddenly able just to leave their, their UK life, travel over there with unlimited time to search. I mean, that's a good thing. You need a lot of time, but there are a number of people I know, no matter how tragic or serious the situation, couldn't just leave everything, fly off, indefinitely and do this. And I always thought, well, who is this, Paul Arnott guy who suddenly has all the time in the world to search, and there's no obvious income from anywhere. So I was leaning towards the whole, yeah, when his TikTok numbers go up and he's, got enough people in there with his, big love guys and all the rest of it, he's just going to disappear. And a bit like Mark Williams Thomas, off onto the next case, and let's see what we can build up here. But there was something very, very strange about the way he left, and I never figured this out because I think the story went that Pedro, who I'm pretty sure is Roman's friend, they live close to each other up there in Masca, that Pedro had given him his Airbnb or one of his places to stay. Um, and then quite suddenly, it seems, Pedro said, well, I need the place back, or I couldn't really figure it out. There was some kind of argument, or something changed, and Pedro needed his accommodation back. And DTR was kicked out, but it didn't really explain why there was any tension there. I didn't really get that part. I do remember this, video where he's a bit of a drama queen, let's be honest. He's kind of hustling through the street, losing every possession he's ever had again, jumping into a car saying, I've got to go, I've got to go. And I was like, well, why have you got to go? Do you not have a reason? No, I've got to go, got to get out of here, guys. Big love, guys, got to go, got to go. But it didn't make sense. Okay, so Pedro needs your place. You can find another one, surely. It was all a bit strange. So I don't know. I came to the conclusion that he realized there was nothing much more to milk from this. And maybe he did get freaked out that night when, he heard all the animals and the body was found. I don't know, but he's a strange one. He's a strange one. So I don't know. I haven't got an answer, but I've got a feeling it was more because, his numbers had peaked and he could do something else than anything else.
Yeah, it's strange that you should bring up TikTok because I've been putting TikTok shorts on my or clips on my shorts, and I've got from YouTube saying that I'm not allowed to do that. I didn't know that. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm gonna be demonetized as of 3 days. So yeah, if anyone wants to help me out, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because it's not really that important to me. So if I put up this here, let me see, here. Okay, yeah. So I got. Be careful. YouTube are getting very tight on their policies at the moment, and I didn't know that by playing a YouTube video on my, even though I've been putting my own music on it, I've been
Hmm.
editing the clips. No, it's come from YouTube. So, Jan, you're going to lose your monetization for 30 days or 90 days, whatever it is. Do you know, it's just as well. I'm like you, Dunks. I don't do it for money. If I get money, great. Yay, goody, I can go off and buy myself something. But I don't do it for the money. So I even if I never got monetized again on here, I will continue to do my videos because my joy, my happiness comes from creating. I'm a creative person. But I just thought I'd add that as you were talking about TikTok. It's not easy being a YouTuber, you know. Anyway, let's get back to the comment and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Let me see. So somebody called JoJo's DTR got kicked off, I think, when Pedro told him to get out of the Airbnb. Okay. Or the bed and breakfast. What else has anyone said? Pedro? I can't remember this Pedro. The
Pedro.
only Pedro I know of is from my favourite comedian Lee Evans, who did used to do a joke about Brits going over to Spain and how all the Spanish men were like Pedro, you know. So yeah, sorry, I don't know why I wandered off onto that, but never mind. Okay, let's move on to the next one because last time we ran out of time quite quickly, and I don't want to do that. I want to spend more time talking about the actual case and hearing from our lovely chatters. So, question 3 was: do teenagers use each other's phones and share passcodes and passwords? Okay, I can answer that. I've had 4 teenagers, and the answer is yes, Duncan. They do. Teenagers are very clever. I've got teenage granddaughters. Gonna have to cough. Sorry about that. Okay, back in the room. One of my teenage granddaughters has managed to get my password just by watching me on my phone. And I didn't realise until one day she went to do something on my phone, and we were together, and she went to do something. She said, "It's all right, Nan. I know your passcode. I know your password." I was like, "How did you know that?" So, okay, so moving on from there, from what I know of teenagers, and I've worked with teenagers years ago, I know, but as I say, I do have teenagers in my family. And I would say yes, they do. They share everything. So I'm going to see what the chat's got to say. But firstly, let's come back to you. See what you think, Dunks.
All right. I don't know. I would have thought they do if it's one or two very trusted ones. It wasn't really the point of my question, though, because what I wanted to mention was I remember reading a case not that long ago of a woman in Belfast that died tragically. It was overdose, I think. But I remember reading in the article that when she had called a delivery of whatever substance she was taking, she said, I need to use someone else's phone. And it struck me that I think this is actually quite organized, that when they are going to do something illegal like this, when I say they, I'm thinking of, younger people, they actually have a system set up whereby I guess it's one phone that could be the second phone of someone that isn't used that much is used rather than Nan's phone, rather than just take, grandma's phone and say nothing, no consequence will happen here. So that part of the story made me think, yeah, that makes sense. That if they are working in this business, they may well have one or two phones that they use, and it's not, in Jay's case, it wouldn't be Jay's phone. So the reason I asked the question was to make it obvious, I suppose, that we shouldn't be surprised that someone else could have had Jay's phone and could have had access to it. I think it probably is, even if the answer is no. And I do see some commenters saying, no, teenagers generally don't share that. We're going to get yes and no, depends which teenagers you know. My point is, I think in this situation, it is very likely that probably Lucy, if I'm right, that she is, like the middle manager in this, she probably does say, I will need to use, either your phone or this phone that we use for this. And who knows, let me just throw it out there, who knows, maybe that was one reason why Jay was asked to go out there. That one of part of the deal was one of your phones. Remember, he had an older one and a newer one. One of your phones is going to be the one we use for, the narco talk, if you like. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think also that it's quite interesting. Do you remember when Debbie showed the phone in the at the end of the documentary? She said, "Oh look, here's Jay's phone. I wonder which phone that was." She did. She didn't clarify, did she? So yeah, it's in my experience, I haven't seen anybody in the chat saying that they know teens would share. I mean, my teens, all the teens I know, they're my granddaughters, and they are very close with their friends. So that's why I believe that it is, it's something that my crowd do. Whether that's everybody, I don't know. So somebody here called Officially Kerry George says, yes, they do, close friends. Mama D has a clear video of Brad with arm in his bag, deep in, when someone's phone runs out of battery or such like, they will borrow. Yes, I agree, Kerry, because I think, especially if it's a work phone, they're all going to have a way of using it or keeping in contact, or yeah, I think so. So, what else are you saying here? Uh, was it Debbie that said that Zach knew Jay's passcode? I would find that difficult to believe because I don't think that brothers would share passcodes. Do we know whether Jay and Zach were close? And why would Zach need to know Jay's passcode? That's what I would say. I hadn't really thought about that, but it just came into my mind when she said, well, we didn't bother looking at it until we got all the way back to Oswald Twizzle. And then, Zach managed to put the passcode in. That to me is another red flag, because I don't think boys would do that. I think it's more of a girly thing. What do you think about that? What do you think about Zach's relationship with Jay? Do you think they were close as brothers, or from what you've seen, or what's your thoughts on that, Dunks?
No, not from what I've seen. I mean, Zach just seems to be this remarkably silent, person in the background that doesn't seem to be able to figure life out very well. He just doesn't seem to be close to anyone from what I see. I mean, it's hard to judge very quiet people like that. You don't know, but no, they don't. They don't seem to be, from what we know of both, and they don't seem to be very much alike. They don't seem to be brothers. But to answer the obvious point here, Jan, it might be that Zach knows Lucy. I believe I've seen them as friends on social media. So actually, Zach getting into the phone could just be Zach saying, "Hey, Lucy, how do I get into? My mum's just come back from Spain with Jay's phone. How do I get into it?" Could be that easy, couldn't it?
Yes, especially if it was the work phone, because they would
Yeah.
probably all have the same password, wouldn't they? So Pam's put something here. It was shown that two females put money into Jay's bank account as they got pills of Lucy. The account information was Jay's bank account. Yeah, I mean, that is so dodgy. It's so dodgy. So let's say it's then Red Sauce has said yes. Why weren't the girls who transferred money into Jay Santander's account not called to court? That is a brilliant question. Why were they not called? Dunks, I'm going to let you answer that if you want to jump in on this one.
I mean, the list of people that should have been called into an inquest is just so long, and it's baffling how Adderley ever looked at all the possible witnesses and decided none of them were, had anything of value to offer. It's just astounding. And this is why a few days ago I mentioned this anonymous contributor. There's obviously well read at these things, and the contributor posted, I put it on my community post, this parliamentary report on how to challenge an inquest decision. And it's fascinating reading, but there's a part of it there that says, the various grounds on which you can do this. And one of them is insufficient inquiry. If you feel the coroner made insufficient inquiry into the case. And this is a prime example. I mean, as this person is pointing out, you have a second party that has access to your bank details and there are payments going in there while Jay's on holiday. If that isn't reason to suspect that something other than accident is in the background, I don't know what is. And I repeated to someone else today in a comment, I don't understand when Adderley went through this whole let's establish that this is Jay and the fingerprints and all that, he never he never got any testimony from the people that found Jay. I still can't get this. And before the inquest, I did my homework here, and I even got a message from an email from the captain of the Guardia Civil, and I asked him. I said, if these two helicopter pilots at a UK inquest are asked to give testimony, would they do it? And he said, if it's the rules of the jurisdiction, they would. So I forwarded that to, well, it wasn't to Adderley because we didn't know it was going to be Adderley. I just forwarded it to the coroner. And I thought, well, of course they're going to ask for maybe not the two helicopter pilots to be on a video link, although that would have worked, but at least written testimony. And of course, that didn't happen. So I'm a bit lost on what counts as, valuable evidence and what doesn't. It seems to me that Adderley's valuable testimony was everything that was pushing this all towards an accident, and any voice that might have contradicted that, who knows? Maybe the helicopter pilots would have said, we found the body and it was just bones, and that it wasn't mummified. Who knows what they would have said? But in the back of my mind, I've always thought every bit of evidence and every bit of testimony was handpicked to push this towards accident. So, I mean, who knows what will happen with this? But we haven't given up on this, and if there's an attorney general of the UK that would look at all these red flags, and if he's got any kind of you know sensitivity to what justice is, he's going to say this doesn't look right because it isn't it isn't right, is it?
No, it certainly isn't right. Um, okay, let's move on to you're being very chatty in the chat, and I like that. Someone's talking about the coast guards, and I think we need to look more at their sort of involvement in it, and also it seems that there's just so much to talk about, so I don't want to go off, but yeah, that's very interesting what you said about the postcode, and whether it was actually them, the Coast Guards, whether it was actually them that found the body. In which case, did they come up from the cove or from the beach? Because that's my theory, guys. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll talk about that another time. I think. But thank you so much for bringing that up. Um, so I understand we've got a few trolls in the house. Yay! Welcome. I'm doing your bit at the end. You're going to have to wait till the end. All right. Um, right. Okay. So let's get on to the last question, which is, which of the cast members is likely to be the first on trial for any offence? Do you know what? I'm going to answer that and say, which of the cast members? I think that it's probably going to be. It depends which one you. Are we talking about the trolls as well, though, Dunks? Or are we just talking about the cast of characters? Like Lucy and that.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that Ayub or Rocky may be the first likely members to be put on trial, because so many criminals get caught by being pulled up for a completely different crime. That happens a lot, and I think something like that may happen in this case. Please let it happen. So, is this the one we're going to disagree on, Dunks? I don't know if we've disagreed yet. Oh, okay. So I'll let you go.
Yeah, this is where we disagree. I think it's tempting to say, well, Rocky and Ayub, because it's pretty clear they're up to no good in their daily lives, just a matter of time. But I'm going back to Brad on this one because, well, two reasons. Seems to run in the family. I actually don't know if his grandfather has any convictions, but he has a social media photo. I put this out there a long, long time ago, where on his lap, he's wearing a flashy watch. On his lap, he's counting out wads of euro notes, and it just looks so sus. So that's granddad for you. Dad Mark has been in court. I think that might have been for violent disorder, Blackburn Rovers football match or something. I believe he's Rachel's brother. I think that is Brad's uncle Jordan. Has been in court, fly tipping illegally or some kind of bogus business. So on the evidence of the family history, it's Brad. And if Brad is still, on the cat or buying cat or, just something like that, it's all pointing towards Brad making a stupid mistake. And it might be that if that happens, nothing connected with the Jay Slater case pops up, but you just never know. All we want is one of them to be arrested for something. And then, as the police do investigate, they often, bump up against something else and say, oh, hello, who's this person here that you were talking to? And, turns out it's Lucy or Brandon. So that's my big hope. I think Ayub, the reason I disagree with you, I think Ayub's been doing this for quite a while. I know he was in prison for a long time, but since he's been out, whether it be Thailand or Dubai, wherever he goes, he seems to have finessed what he does somehow or other. He seems fairly confident. You know what I mean? In that world, he seems to be the one that kind of knows what he's doing. Anyone can trip up, but he seems to know what he's doing. Yeah, Rocky could be. Rocky might just beat Brad on the finishing line to this one. I don't know, but one of them, I think. But let's see what the commenters say. We might be both terribly wrong.
Okay, so we've got a few names come up. Somebody said something about Jordan Hargreaves.
Hmm.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Um, who else has somebody said? It's interesting to see Bobs and Bits name being seen again. Do you know we garnered so much information from that guy on YouTube, and no, it wasn't on YouTube. It was TikTok, wasn't it? And he was just so good. I got so much information from him. Although TikTok isn't really my go-to for information, but I saw pieces or clips on other channels and thought, yeah, this dude knows what he's talking about. What's this? Oh, okay. So Claire's saying, what about his wife? 18 million street value. Yeah, but is she actually Joy? I don't know if we'd cast her as a character in this play of what's a good word to call it? Uh, lies,
Desperados.
lies, debauchery. Yeah, crap. I can't think. Sorry. Normally I'm a bit more articulate than that, but yeah, I don't know. Had you considered her, Dunks?
Yeah, Cherry Page Crisp, Ayub's wife. Apparently, though I'm not 100% convinced. Apparently, they got married in Thailand. Um, maybe, maybe not. Let's assume that she's married. It's all registered in the UK that they're man and wife. But her trial, she's up in June. We got a long time to wait for that. I was kind of hoping someone might trip up before June. And I think everyone is assuming that Ayub is part of that drug haul and a lot of people involved there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Ayub had set something up, but his hands are clean as far as the evidence go. But that would be a terrible thing if he's going to sit in court and say nothing, and his his new wife gets done. Does he just walk out and start again and look for another one? I don't know how this goes, but yeah, if we include Cherry Page Crisp and we have to wait till June, she might be the first one that gets sentenced to something. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'm just hoping that there are a group of level-headed police detectives shut away in their room in a police headquarters somewhere, going over the real goings on in Tenerife and islands of that ilk. I really hope that by doing so they will indeed flush out the big fish, because those big fish aren't too good at staying under the radar. It's like they seem to like to sort of keep putting out little red herrings for people, and I just genuinely hope that there are people or there are agencies like the police or whatever that are going to be looking into Chris Pennington's and Luggy. Is he in the same league? I don't think so. I think Luggy is just a very handy, helpful person for them all to have. That's what I think. Is he the brightest tool in the box? No. But anyway, we don't need to go, go about insulting people. But yeah, that's what I hope. Now Nick isn't in tonight, is he? Is Nick in tonight? Now Duncan, Nick came out. So we've finished looking at that. Okay, now Nick came out with an idea of maybe starting a GoFundMe in order to afford a private investigator to, I believe, to go after Chris Pennington's, the Penningtons, and I don't know whether it's just them we should be hiring a private investigator for, or whether we should be hiring a private investigator to actually find out the truth about what happened to Jay Slater. Whether they would have to go via the police, the Guardia Civil, I don't know. But what do you think about the idea of us starting a GoFundMe in order to get some proper answers here?
On the surface, it's a great idea because this has gone on so long now, and this is the one thing I got wrong in the whole Jay Slater saga. I never thought it would drag on this long. I thought there were so many red flags that it only needed a half-hearted investigator anywhere, UK or Spain, to figure out that this wasn't simply an accident. So it is dragging on, and the more we look into it, the more red flags there are. Um, yeah, we need to think about it. I mean, my gut reaction is that something like real estate fraud, if that's what we think, the Penningtons might be up to, and they're trying to cover something up, that can be, I think, beyond a private investigator. That takes access to all kinds of banking records and what have you. I would have thought the place to start was at the beginning because those Spanish witness statements, from Juan Diaz and Ramon and Ofelia that are so contradictory. We still, from those, we don't know what Jay was wearing. Came out in jeans. No, he was in shorts. Oh, he was in this colored shirt. No, he wasn't. It was a different colored shirt. Let's try and change the missing persons poster. That was also contradictory. I would have thought that maybe, yeah, maybe a Spanish private investigator from Tenerife could just go over those statements again. And the problem is the Guardia Civil won't want to look at this because it's all pointing towards they made so many mistakes. But if the private investigator could at least prove to the rest of us that these are all contradictions and, maybe they need to be prosecuted for giving false testimony, something that works towards the weak points, and the weak points to me were those initial statements. They were all over the place. And it is again. I don't want to keep beating up Adderley. Well, I do, so I will. I want to beat up Adderley again because anyone, you and I, when we heard those and read those, and Warren did the same thing. When Warren heard, apparently, I wasn't there, but apparently when Warren heard Juan Diaz's testimony or Ramon's testimony that the boy came out of the house and he was wearing jeans, apparently Warren was like, no, he wasn't. So here's an obvious point. So yeah, we can talk about this. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, why not?
Well, rather than talk about it now, let's talk about that. Let's make that the main topic for next week. And I think also it'll give us the opportunity to really sort of think about it and decide what exactly we would want the private investigator to do. I may
Exactly.
I may give, because Nick was the one that came up with the idea, I may drop him an email and ask him exactly which part he was thinking of getting investigated. But I think, in all honesty, there's so many different areas that a
Yeah.
private investigator could or we could warrant getting a private investigator involved, whether it's over here dealing with certain individuals, or whether it's abroad. I don't know, but maybe we can have a chat about that. Um, and yeah, talk more about it next week. So, hi, Simon. Simon has said private investigation into everything seems like a brilliant and sensible idea. It may be the only way, barring a crisis of conscience, we find out the truth. Yes, see, I think that as well, and
Yeah, yeah.
we can't wait forever for Brad to, throw a wobbler and tell the truth. We can't do that. So yeah, I'm glad you're in agreement there. Um, so you guys are so good. You're asking so many questions. This one here is interesting. Hey, base boss air. Nice to see you. So Chris says, did Jay have two man bags with him? One said boss. Sorry, one said boss, and one in documentary was Armani. Oh, I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know. And also, somebody up here has actually said, didn't Debbie Duncan say that she, spent a lot of time helping him pack his case? Guys, you guys are throwing out all these different questions, and I'm trying to say, yeah, I think that's yeah, I think that's a good idea. But the problem arises, I guess. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I'm looking at the chat. I think the problem arises, sticking with the private investigation thing, is can you get? I know it's going to sound silly, but Dunks, you'll know. How does it work if you want a private investigator to work in a different country? Because I personally think the private investigator needs to look at the civil, or the Guardia Civil. That's what I think. But or he could look at what these other people are saying happened to Jay Slater when we know, in actual fact, that didn't happen. So what do you think, Dunks? Is it possible to get somebody to work over there? Would they need to be British or would they need to be Spanish?
Well, as Mark Williams Thomas found, it is very difficult to get good cooperation from people on the ground in a foreign country. I will hasten to add, when Mark Williams Thomas said he's found it very hard to work with police in Spain and Portugal and France, I think the main problem there is it's Mark Williams Thomas. I don't think he's an easy person to work with anyway, you know. And I mean, in his defense, it isn't easy. So my answer is I only had in mind when you started saying private investigator, I immediately had in mind that guy who said he was a private investigator and used to work for the Guardia Civil. He was one of those searchers, a Spanish guy, forgotten his name. I remember his dog's name, Caperucita. And he was one of those that was searching on that, that big bash at the end of the 2 weeks when they hoped to get loads of people, and I don't know, a dozen showed up. He said he was a private investigator, and I found a newspaper article where he said he had contacted Debbie to ask her if she wanted, private investigator, and well, I guess she said no. So someone like that, I think, to work on the Spanish side, for someone like that, you see, I saw someone mentioning about HMRC and fraud. I mean, that's darn difficult for someone in one country that's been brought up under one system to try to figure out what tax laws might have been broken in the UK. It's that's a tough one. So I agree with what you said earlier, Jan. I think you need to focus on what you think could be discovered by a private investigator in one place. That would alert the authorities there to actually just looking at it. Um, it's not straightforward. I mean, we come back to the same problems always. In this case, surely it's unique in that the family seem to be part of the resistance now, you know? And I'm sure the private investigator would say, well, if the family's not going to cooperate, how am I going to be able to, have a look through what they might have what's in Debbie Duncan's phone or Zach's phone? We don't know that. They're not going to cooperate. Um, so my we have to think about it. We'll talk about it next week. I mean, it's a very good idea, but I can also see that unless you get a specific goal and a specific plan in action, and I would have thought one guy in one place trying to get things moving there, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I'm sorry, but I keep going back to this. If only Debbie had thrown her lot in with the right side here, this would have been wrapped up so long ago. But she's now part of the opposition. Like nothing to see here, nothing to see here. But a private investigator would find there's an awful lot to see. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, God, I mean, just going back to why did the police allow the last two people to see Jay alive? Why did they allow them to leave the country? It's like, so yeah, I think we need to ponder on that, definitely. But you guys are coming up with some brilliant ideas. Yeah, why did they not have the phone data? I mean, Jesus. Yeah, as Bonnie says, it's a bottomless pit. It certainly is. So Phil has said, would the best outcome be to find a process to prompt a proper police investigation? I think so. Yes. I think that would be the best income or outcome. Whether it's possible, I don't know. I really don't know. Do I think all the Guardia Civil are crooked? No, they can't be. I know there's a lot involved as far as tourism, the amount that these islands survive on the finances of tourism. But at the end of the day, if something is blatantly wrong, then they should be dealing with it. So, anyway, let's save that for next week. But, guys, you are fantastic in the chat. With all your questions, you send me off, I go off on a tangent so easily. So if you're a Britain, hang on, I just finished on this one. If you're a British citizen, means anything by law now. If you don't pay your taxes and get caught, yeah, okay. So you're talking about the finances. That's the thing, Dunks. Does the private investigation just look at the finances of the situation? I don't know. It's a hard one, guys. Come back with all your questions next week because, my God, we could talk about this for days. So I think we're going to finish with our usual. Let's see if I can find it. A bit of a laugh because, of course, we've still got our Trolls of the Week. Trolls of the Week. They're still there, guys. They're still there. But I will say what I will do, because I've got my face on here and there's Dunk's face on there. So, but I like to just put this up. Firstly, because I want these people to realise that we are logging and reporting J Slater trolls because they have gone above and beyond what people should be doing online. They are breaking so many terms of service, and also on YouTube, but also on online. You're just not allowed to do the things that they do. So they will be handled. Don't worry about that. So what I wanted to say to you guys is, if any of you are being abused or harassed by these trolls, we all know who they are, guys. We all know who they are. Please take a screenshot of it and do not hesitate to contact your local police station. Also, what you need to do, well, if you'd like to, send your screenshots to myself or Duncan. I'm sure he won't mind. Then we can also compile our files. We've got so many. But anyway, so that's why I keep that up there. Don't be afraid of these people. Most of them are trolls, but some of them are just hateful individuals who are actually breaking the law. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. Not on my watch and not on Duncan's watch. So, I put this one up because we haven't spoken about this one. Pope Chris the First. Yeah, all right. Yeah, great. Can you imagine being so, I don't know, having the mindset of opening up a YouTube channel and thinking, now what will I call myself? I know, I'll call myself Pope Chris the First. That just shows the mentality. That just shows the mentality of these people. And ordinarily, I would just laugh about them. But there are certain things that certain people are doing, and I don't need to put names. I don't need to show you who these people are, because there are people that will just go over and have a look, right? Some people are being very, very naughty, okay, and they will face the consequences. Trust me, okay. So I wanted to just bring this up, that this person that was being trolled this time um, is called LFG12345Y. They were actually making some really good points. I can't remember which video it was on, and this Pope Chris the First said, "Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Wax has had loads of proof of foul play over the last 18 months. Why hasn't he taken it to the police, or his MP, or the independent police complaints body, or even a journalist to expose this cover up? He wants justice after all. I know why. Ha ha ha." Do you know what's so funny is that these trolls that are meant to be caring individuals who care that this boy's parents are being harassed, abused, um, for no reason. These caring peoples always put the laughing face at the end of it. That's a good way to discover if they're a troll or not, because trust me, there's nothing really funny about this case when you consider that this young lad, whether he was a good un or a bad un, it doesn't matter. He was a 19-year-old lad who went off on his holidays and didn't come back. I don't laugh about that. There is nothing funny about that. So when you see these trolls and they write all this garbage and then put the funny, ha 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 ha. Yeah, you laugh all the way to the police station, lad. All right? Because that's where you're going to end up. So anyway, I'll just say once again, guys, if you do have any trouble, if they are exposing members of your family or making threats to you, and you don't want to go to the police about it, send it to my email, okay? I'm happy to advocate for you guys. And I'm going to leave the last few words from Dunks for you. So here we go.
Yeah, I just want to get back to Pope Christopher's message here, and this is the repeated nonsense that we get. And you'll notice they don't ever say, for example, Wax said this and this was incorrect, or it doesn't make sense. All they now do is to say, well, if you've got evidence of this, take it to the police. Yeah, but what did Wax say that was incorrect? I mean, what have I ever said that was incorrect or a lie? They don't actually confront you with what you said that is wrong. They just say, well, because the police aren't doing anything, then that means you must be wrong. Well, I mean, let's point out the obvious here. The police in the UK have no jurisdiction, basically, on a crime that happened in Spain. So the answer, Pope Chris the First, is why has Wax not gone running down to the police station with all this, that, and the other? Because the police will tell Wax, well, this is something that happened in Spain. We're not investigating anything there. It's a very simple answer. But they love to trot out this, well, if you've got evidence, why haven't you taken it to the police? Um, Another simple answer is that it's obvious that the authorities, whether they be the police or the coroner, mainstream media, they've already made their mind up. This is why we have to discuss private investigator or going to the attorney general. We have to discuss other ways because the people that Pope Chris I keeps saying should be looking at this, they're not going to do anything with it. They're just not going to do anything with it. However, if you want to argue that Wax has said something wrong, just Pope Chris the First should come up, seeing as he's already been ordained and he is infallible, if he's the Pope, he should just tell us what Wax said that is wrong instead of, the happy, like you say, this out of place, happy, jokey face, then take it to the police. It is all bizarre. But anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a rant. What was I supposed to do, Jan? I was supposed to say good night to everyone. Yeah, good night, everyone. Many thanks for participating. The mods did a great job. A lot of good comments. And we will think, Jan, about this whole private investigator because the commenters are right. The clock has ticked down a long time, and we need a different approach. And hey. I mean, if you don't try, you don't know. This might dig up something. And what you said, Jan, is right. The Guardia Civil are not obviously not all corrupt. They've made some horrible mistakes. I think Cipriano Martin was the wrong guy. Mountain Rescue Division, what does he know about, detective work? They made horrible mistakes. All you need is a different guy, someone with a bit of sense to say, yes, we'll look at this again, even if it just means that, some local guys get brought in and we re-question these witnesses. That might then spur something. It's a, snowball effect. It might spur something in the UK. But as a first step, I quite like this idea. But yeah, good night and thanks for participation, everyone. But Jan, let's talk about it next week, huh?
Definitely, definitely. Thanks so much, Dunks, for coming along and chatting. Do you know what? I could see us still talking about this in 3 years' time. We'll be like, well, what about this and what about that? But anyway, Dunks, thank you so much. Continue putting out those fabulous videos. I need to get another one put together. Unfortunately, I understand Wax is having, tech issues. That's the trouble, isn't it? But anyway, so yeah, I think it's important that you guys know that we are looking at other ways. Myself and Duncan, and also Wax. We are looking at other ways to get the truth out there. That is our goal. Okay. And I'm hoping it's going to be 2026, but maybe it's not going to be 2026, but we're not going to keep quiet. So I want to say thank you so much, Dunks. I'll see you next Sunday, same time.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you so much to all my wonderful mods. I understand there's a few trolls in the house today. Of course, there's going to be. They've got nothing else to do. Do you know what I mean? And then what's funny is that we know that they dissect every second of this live stream to come back with a whole load of garbage. But anyway, let them continue, but they won't be continuing forever. That's what I'll say. But I want to say thank you so much for all my mods and all you lovely chatters. Love having you in here. You're wonderful people. Have a wonderful weekend, a week ahead. Stay safe out there, keep warm, and just remember it's a rotten old world. So until the next one, bye bye for now.